hey everyone, or like, hi, is anyone even watching? Probably. Okay, so today we're taking a trip. Not like a trip, cause, gas prices, but a trip through. Yeah, like a time machine, but instead of a weird clunky box, it's just me talking about clothes. We're gonna explore how teen fashion has evolved, like, from the 1920s, which is literally 100 years ago. Isn't that insane? All the way to 2025, which is like the future, or, well, almost the future. It's gonna be a whole thing, a whole journey. So, like, imagine your great-great-grandma as a teenager. What was she wearing? Was it, like, super uncomfortable? Probably. And then think about what we're now. It's kind of wild how much things change, but also, like, how some stuff kind of comes back. It's a whole cycle, a fashion vortex, if you will. I'm probably gonna get sidetracked, let's be real. But the goal here is to look at all these different decades and see what the vibe was, what the kids were into, and how it all just, like, morphed into what we see today. I'm actually, like, kind of excited for this, even though history usually makes my brain feel like scrambled eggs. But fashion history, that's different. That's like important history, It's about self-expression and what was going on in the world, but like make it cute. Or, whatever the version of cute was back then. So yeah, let's dive in. Or like gently wade in. Whatever feels right. Okay, so first up, the 1920s, the Roaring Twenties. Sounds like a party, right? And honestly, the fashion kind of matched that vibe. This was like post-World War I, and everyone was ready to just like live a little. Or a lot. For teens, especially girls, this was a huge deal. They started wearing these things called flapper dresses. Think like loose, kind of shapeless, but in a cool way, often with beads or fringe that would like swish around when they danced. Which they did. A lot. They were totally rebelling against all the super stuffy, corseted stuff from before. And the hair! Oh my god, the hair! Everyone like chopped it all off into these bobbed haircuts. Can you imagine the drama? Your mom being like, you did what to your hair? But it was a statement, like, I'm modern, I'm independent, deal with it. They also wore these cloche hats, which are like these super cute bell-shaped hats that fit really close to the head. It was all very sleek and like a little bit boyish, but in a totally chic way. It was the era of jazz and new dances and just like a whole new attitude. All right, so after the like non-stop party of the 20s, things got a little intense in the 1930s. We're talking the Great Depression, which, spoiler alert, wasn't very great. So obviously, fashion had to like chill out a bit. People didn't have a ton of money, so the super extravagant flapper styles kind of faded away. It became all about being more conservative and honestly more practical. Think like if your fun, outgoing friend suddenly had to get a really serious job and pay bills. That was the 30s for fashion. For teen girls, dresses got longer again, usually hitting around mid-calf. And they were like way more modest. Less sparkle, more fabric? Yeah, that sounds about right. They often had these like puffed sleeves or interesting collars to add a little something, because you still gotta have some style even when times are tough. And shoes? Super practical. No more flimsy dancing shoes. It was all about sturdy heels or sensible flats. It was a very different vibe, like everyone collectively took a deep breath and put on a slightly longer skirt. Okay, moving on to the 1940s. And like another huge global event, World War II, this totally dominated everything, including what teens were wearing. Fashion became super influenced by like necessity and practicality, even more so than the 30s. There were fabric shortages, so clothes had to be made with less material. This is where you see the rise of utility clothing, which sounds kind of boring, but they made it work, It was all about being resourceful. A-line skirts were big, because they used less fabric than fuller skirts, and high-waisted trousers for women became like way more common, especially as women started taking on jobs traditionally done by men. It was a very capable, strong look. And shoulder pads. Oh my god, shoulder pads were like in blouses, in jackets, probably in pajamas, who knows? It gave this kind of structured, almost military-inspired silhouette. It was like fashion was saying, we're tough, we can handle this. Even with all the restrictions, teens still found ways to express themselves, maybe with a cute hairstyle or a little accessory. Chapter 4, the 50s, poodle skirts, greasers, and Hollywood dreams. Baby, all right, the 1950s. The war is over, people are like feeling optimistic, and rock and roll is born. This decade is like iconic for teen fashion. Think Grease, but like the actual 1950s. For girls, it was all about that super feminine hourglass silhouette. Poodle skirts. You literally can't talk about the 50s without mentioning poodle skirts. These big swishy felt skirts, often with like a cute little poodle applique on them. So extra, but so fun. They'd wear them with tight little sweaters or blouses. And for the guys, it was the era of the greaser. Leather jackets, white t-shirts, cuffed jeans, think James Dean or Marlon Brando. So cool, so rebellious. Saddle shoes were huge for everyone, those black and white, or sometimes brown and white, lace-up shoes. And Hollywood had a massive influence. Everyone wanted to look like their favorite movie stars. It was all very polished, very put together, but also with this undercurrent of teenage rebellion bubbling up with the new music. It was like the birth of the teenager as a distinct cultural force. Chapter 5, 60s, Mania, miniskirts, Mod Squad, and like peace signs everywhere. Okay, buckle up, because the 1960s were like a fashion explosion. So much change happened so fast, it's kind of wild. This is the decade of the swinging 60s, especially in London. The early 60s still had a bit of that polished late 50s vibe, but then bam, everything got shorter, brighter, and way more out there. Mini skirts. Mary Quant, a British designer, basically like invented them, and teens went crazy for them. Can you imagine the scandal? Legs everywhere. And then there was the whole mod look, super sleek, geometric patterns, A-line dresses, often in black and white or really bold color combinations. Think Twiggy, with her huge eyes and short hair. Go-go boots were essential, obviously. But then, as the decade went on, the hippie counterculture thing started to take over. So you had this shift towards more flowing fabrics, psychedelic prints, bell-bottoms starting to creep in, headbands, peace signs. It was like two totally different vibes coexisting and sometimes even blending. So much creativity, so much rebellion. Chapter 6, 70s groove bell-bottoms, disco balls, and that bohemian rhapsody. Alright, welcome to the 1970s, a decade that was like all about the vibes. And the vibes were varied. You had the tail end of the hippie movement, which evolved into this really cool bohemian style. Think long, flowy maxi dresses, peasant blouses, lots of embroidery, turquoise jewelry, and of course, more bell-bottoms. Like, the bell-bottoms got even more bell-bottomy. It was all very earthy, very natural, very, I make my own macrame plant hangers. But then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you had disco. Oh my god, disco. Sequins, glitter, satin, platform shoes that were like, dangerously high. Think Studio 54, but like for teens at the local roller rink. Jumpsuits were huge, halter tops, guys in super tight polyester shirts, maybe unbuttoned a little too low. It was glamorous, it was flashy, it was all about dancing the night away. And somewhere in between all that, you had like just regular everyday 70s stuff. Lots of denim t-shirts with band logos, corduroy. It was a real mixed bag, but definitely unforgettable. Okay, the 1980s. If the 70s were about vibes, the 80s were about like more hair, more makeup, more shoulder pads, they're back, more color. Everything was just bigger. This was the era of MTV, and music videos had a huge impact on teen fashion. Whatever Madonna or Michael Jackson or Cyndi Lauper was wearing, teens wanted it. Immediately. It was all about bright neon colors. Like, colors that could actually hurt your eyes. But in a cool way, obviously. Oversized blazers were a thing, often with, like, rolled-up sleeves. Leg warmers, worn with, like, everything, even if your legs weren't actually cold. Acid-wash jeans, parachute pants, members-only jackets. And the hairstyles. Oh my god. Big hair was an understatement. We're talking teased, sprayed, permed to within an inch of its life. It was a whole aesthetic. It was bold, it was loud, it was a little bit tacky in retrospect, but at the time it was like the peak of coolness. So much self-expression, even if it involved a lot of hairspray. Alright, so after the, like, super polished, almost aggressive fashion of the 80s, the 1990s were like a collective sigh of relief. Or maybe just a shrug. The early 90s were dominated by grunge. Think Seattle, think Nirvana, think Kurt Cobain. It was all about being like anti-fashion. Flannel shirts, ripped jeans, like actually ripped, not bought ripped, band t-shirts, combat boots, or Converse sneakers. It was messy, it was comfortable, and it was a total rejection of 80s glamour. But then, you also had the massive influence of hip-hop fashion. Baggy jeans, oversized sports jerseys, Timberland boots, starter jackets, Kangol hats. This was a whole different kind of cool, confident, bold, and super influential. And then for girls, there was also like the clueless vibe with plaid mini skirts and knee-high socks, but also slip dresses worn over t-shirts. It was a decade of contrasts, from super casual and angsty to sporty and preppy, and like a general sense of whatever, I'll wear what I want. Okay, the 2000s, Y2K, the new millennium, and the fashion was a choice, a very specific choice. This was the era of pop stars like Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, and *NSYNC, basically dictating everything. And reality TV started to get huge, so Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie were like style icons. The defining item? Low-rise jeans, like dangerously low, so low you needed a special kind of underwear, or maybe just like a prayer. And often paired with a crop top. So much midriff and bling. Everything was covered in rhinestones. Jeans, tops, trucker hats, yes, trucker hats were flip phones. If it wasn't sparkling, was it even fashion? Velour tracksuits were considered like peak casual chic. Frosted lip gloss, butterfly clips, chunky highlights. It was a very specific aesthetic, very pop-centric, very shiny. Looking back, some of it is genuinely horrifying, but at the time, we all thought we looked so cool. It was a simpler time, a more bedazzled time. And here we are, the 2020s. And like a little guess at 2025, because who even knows what the future holds, right? But right now, it feels like comfort is king, or queen, or like the gender-neutral monarch of fashion. Oversized hoodies, sweatpants as actual pants you wear outside, chunky sneakers that are basically pillows for your feet. Streetwear has a massive influence, obviously. And athleisure is still going strong. Basically, if it's comfy and looks kinda cool, teens are into it. Another huge thing is sustainable fashion and thrifting, which is like amazing. People are way more conscious about where their clothes come from. So vintage finds, upcycled pieces, shopping secondhand, it's not just economical, it's like a statement. Individuality is huge too. Social media means trends spread super fast, but it also means everyone can kind of cultivate their own unique style. For 2025, I'm guessing more tech integration, maybe smart fabrics, but also like a continued focus on personal expression and sustainability. And probably still comfy sneakers. Please let comfy sneakers stay. And there you have it. Wow, that was a lot. We literally just time traveled through a whole century of teen fashion trends. From like those rebellious flapper girls in the 20s to, well, us right now, probably scrolling on our phones in an oversized hoodie. It's kind of crazy to see how much things have changed, but also like how some ideas just keep popping back up. Bell bottoms? Anyone? Shoulder pads? It's all a cycle, I guess. A really, really long, sometimes questionable, but always interesting cycle. Honestly, my brain feels a little full, like I just ate a giant fashion textbook. But in a good way. It really makes you think about how clothes are so much more than just like stuff you put on your body. They're about who you are, what's happening in the world, and what music you're secretly listening to on repeat. Or not so secretly, like fashion is basically a diary you wear. Deep, right? I should write that down. So, which decade is your favorite? Are you like a secret 50s poodle skirt enthusiast? Or do you vibe more with the 90s grunge scene? Let us know in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious. And you know the drill. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more awesome content. Or like, content that I think is awesome. Hopefully you do too. See you next time. Bye!